and a message of the great Nami Tom Dio. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jian, Carmelo, Dellosa. Happy Fridays.
What if I told you that to reach your goals, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to risk being misunderstood, being humble enough to ask for help, and to fail over and over again. It sounds a little odd, doesn't it? Well, before I get to that, greetings everyone. I'm Jian, Carmelo in Dellosa, speaking proudly to you all on stage. Before I even begin in my song story, I just want to thank my friends, my family, and especially my mentors. They've all played a core part in shaping the person who I am today. And I've met so many amazing people that will be just an extremely long list to name them all. And honestly, I don't think any number of words could truly express how grateful I am in the role they played in my journey. And speaking of journeys, mine wasn't always so smooth. On August 5, 2024, I walked into this campus with only one thing in my mind. I wanted to be in the top of the director's list. And after 10 months of pure struggle and stubborn determination, I did it. I'm right here. You see me? I made it. If you told grade 7 me that I'd be standing here today giving a speech, I'd probably laugh. Because back then, my lowest Jian was literally 1.63. That was my worst at my grade 7. And now, I'm standing on you all on stage with a Jian of 1.73. That kind of growth does not happen by accident. A jump from 1.63 to 1.17 has to be that something happened along the way. And that's what I'm here to tell you. Here's what I did. The thing holding you back from success isn't always laziness. Sometimes it's pride. That's right. To succeed, you must put your pride behind your goals. In short, to reach success, you must swallow your ego. Let me say that again. To reach your goals, you must swallow your ego. Now, some of you might be thinking, what does that even mean? What does swallow your ego mean? I'm saying that success takes humility, not in just how you treat other people, but how much pride you're willing to sacrifice for yourself. They might be thinking, well, I'm a humble person. I don't brag, and I admit when I've gone wrong. But is that really all there is to humility? I don't think so. Let me ask you this. How many times were you in class and your teacher asks any questions? And you didn't have one, but you decided to not raise your hand. Not because you didn't care for the class, but because you were afraid of looking unintelligent. How relatable is that experience to you? Be honest with yourself. Let me process it for a while. How relatable? This is what I mean by the thing holding you back from success isn't always laziness. Sometimes it's pride. By not asking that question you wanted to ask, you chose to protect your pride instead of feeding your curiosity. You stayed confused all because you didn't want to look weak. And the worst part, you walked away still not knowing. That's the cost of pride. You missed the chance to learn every time you read the explore. Every time you let your failure take over, that is knowledge and experience you miss that you could have gained if you just raised your hand and asked that oblivious question. And so what if people think you silly? So what if people think that your question is meaningless? While they're busy judging and laughing at you for asking such a small question, you're busy growing and gaining experience that you may never be able to obtain. Their haters are busy laughing at you while you're busy growing to become a better student. They're stuck in the moment and you're building your future. I cannot count the amount of times I've asked something so oblivious that my friends and people will make fun of me for it, especially in my biology class. In fact, one time, I literally asked the teacher to repeat the same point over and over again until I our conversations, and how we deal with people. Let me tell you something about myself. I cannot speak Bisaya further. If there was ever a life or death situation where I had to save myself by speaking in Bisaya, I'd probably be in trouble. I was someone who was taught by my parents in elementary school to speak English during my early years. However, I always felt disappointed about it. I hate the fact that I cannot speak Bisaya because it's much harder to interact with your peers. In fact, during my entire grade 7 and grade 8 years, I was literally afraid to talk to anyone because everyone was just speaking a language that I didn't know around me, and I was very overwhelmed. On grade 9, I decided to try. I started speaking in Bisaya, albeit very bad. I mispronounced almost everything. I mixed up words, I used the wrong particles, and sometimes I even said things that didn't even make sense. There were times when people laughed at me, and there were moments where I just wanted to stop speaking altogether and go back to English. But I didn't. I kept going. I kept trying. Because I realized something. If I let my fear of being embarrassed stop me, I would never be able to grow. I had to swallow my ego and accept that sounding weird was just part of the process. I had to let myself be corrected. I had to risk being laughed at in order to get better. And slowly, really slowly, I started understanding more. I started replying back. My vocabulary. And some of my close friends even encouraged me, saying they appreciated my effort. Of course, I'm still very far from fluent in Bisaya. In fact, I still think I'm so bad that I'm definitely not ready enough to speak Bisaya in front of you all. But still, I'm so much better now than I was in grade 7. It all started with being willing to risk embarrassment. Just like that voice crack, willing to risk embarrassment. You get the meaning? That's the power of swallowing your ego. You give yourself the chance to grow. So go ahead, raise your hand when you're curious. Talk to that person you've always wanted to talk to, even though you might embarrass yourself in front of them. Take the risk. Say the awkward sentence. Ask for help. Admit you don't know. Let people laugh and let people judge you. Because while they're busy protecting their image, you're busy building your growth. You don't need to be perfect to succeed. You just need to be willing to try and fail, and try and fail, and try and fail over and over. Sometimes you just have to say no to this. Say no to this and your pride. And say yes to your growth. So, swallow your ego. Because once you're brave enough to embrace your flaws, nothing can stop you from